Good morning, everyone. Today is February 9th, 2026, and this marks the 1 year anniversary that I've been on the carnivore diet. I really enjoy the diet, and that's why I'm going to continue to do it. I have a lot more goals I want to reach with weight loss, and I believe that this is the best course of getting there. Along with the carnivore diet and the exercise, I feel like I've made a lot of progress, and I like it, and so that's why I'm going to keep doing it. So let's talk about the diet itself. As you know, a year ago, I was looking at doing this diet because after I retired from the Navy, I put on weight and, I would try the diets and it was, what they call the yo-yo effect, I guess, where I would lose the weight and then I would get tired of the diet. I'd get bored of the diet. So I'd quit the diet and I'd go back to doing what I was doing before. And that was eating junk food and drinking tons of Mountain Dew. And then I would gain all the weight back and then some. And then I would try the next diet. And same thing, the yo-yo effect. I'd lose weight, gain it all back. So I thought, well, I read a lot of this information on the carnivore diet. And I thought, what the heck? I've tried every other diet. I might as well try this one. And I'm very pleased with this diet because I love steak. I like eggs, bacon, ham, chicken, baked or fried. So I thought this was a win-win situation for me because I'm just eating the stuff I like. So with the diet, the first 90 days, I did the video so you could see what I was experiencing on a daily basis, how it affected me, what my mood was like, the highs of it where, I was lots of energy and the lows of it where, dealing with constipation. Once everything stabled out, it was good to go. And that's why I did the 90 days because it was to hold myself accountable, but to also give you reference as to what you would experience as if you wanted to try this diet too. So there'd be no surprises and what you were going to experience. Overall, the diet, like I said, I enjoy it. Besides the weight loss, I feel good. Physically and mentally, I feel better. I do have a lot more energy when I go to the gym. I try to go to the gym every day. I'm not much of a lifter anymore. It's mostly cardio, but even that has improved greatly. And so along with the diet and the exercise where I'm doing it, I feel really good and I'm meeting my goals as I set them. I still have goals. I'm still going to continue with the carnivore diet because I still have goals I want to reach. I'm still not quite at my overall goal yet or my overall weight goal, but I'm getting closer every day. And, I'm not going to rush it. And, I'm going to work toward it so I do it smartly and that if something does happen, I don't gain all that weight back, like I used to. So the carnivore diet is going to be my way of life because, again, I like the food and it works for me. And being on this thing for a year, it has been a good experience. Yes, I've experienced highs with it. I dropped 30 some pounds. And that was good for me. Like I said, I'm not quite where I want to be, but I'm getting there. And the 34 pounds that I've been able to lose and keep off for a year is probably the biggest accomplishment, the biggest high I have, because this has been the difference between all the other diets that I've done before in the past. The doctors, as part of the highs, when I went to my doctor's appointments, my blood pressure dropped significantly. With the weight loss, I'm no longer considered diabetic or pre-diabetic. The doctor was amazed at how much my A1C dropped when he did several different blood tests to make sure that, everything was good from doing this diet. The cholesterols were good. I know there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, but the doctor didn't have any concern about any of it. So that was always good to hear. So I count that as a high note because, I know that what I was doing was okay. I wasn't putting myself in jeopardy. And I felt, I'm like, that's a big part of it because you obviously don't want to have any medical conditions come up and not just this diet, but any diet or exercise. So, you know, that was a high for me is to see that, blood pressure was, 119 over 72 the last time I got my blood pressure taken. Again, not to be pre-diabetic. So that's one less, pill the doctor wanted me to take. So overall, the highs of this thing kept me going, lifted my spirits, gave me a sense of accomplishment, and it always, made me feel good to know that what I was doing was working. Let's talk about the lows. The lows to it. With eating, I never got hungry while I was on it, but the lows were, I still experience some constipation. I guess it just depends on what I eat that day with carnivore. So there are still some days that I do have the constipation, but eventually it comes out. The fact that I did hit a weight loss plateau, and I was in that plateau for a while, so that was kind of a bad feeling for me because I always wondered, what am I doing that's, from the first 90 days where I was dropping weight constantly to, this low of, well, I've hit a plateau and I don't know how to break that plateau or get through that plateau to continue to lose the weight. Eventually I did, but I consider that a low because it did affect me mentally a little bit because, I was like, I'm cruising, I'm losing the weight, and then bam, hit the wall. And it was kind of depressing because I never questioned about giving up the diet, but it did make me question whether, what I was doing wrong. And so that was the lows of it. I don't know if any of you experienced the same thing where you hit a weight loss plateau or and what you did to get out of it. It took me a while. I had to switch up exercises and but I didn't switch up the way I was eating. There were times, and I documented those, and I tried to be as transparent as possible with you, when I did fall off the wagon. There was just some situations you just can't help. We were at places where, you go to dinner and they just didn't have it. I was hungry, so there was really, I didn't want to order one meal to take 3 bites of meat out of it and leave it. There were times where, again, people made stuff, and I don't want to be a rude person, so I ate what they made. When we did go on vacation, there was times where, the food, like I said, the food, and when you order the dinner, it comes with breads and it comes with dessert, and I tried to avoid that. But there was times where I didn't want to be the only one that wasn't eating, so that was on me. I guess you could say mental weakness, I guess, but I did have desserts at certain times. So yes, I fell off the wagon, but I was well aware enough to know what I was doing, and I jumped right back on the bike and started riding again the next day. So it wasn't a total loss, and I know that it wasn't going to throw me off the diet, and it wasn't going to make me gain all the weight back. But those were some of the lows of it. There's still times where we go out with our friends, and so I'm looking through the menu trying to find something that I can eat when we go to different restaurants that aren't carnivore friendly. But, I've managed, and, I've learned a lot from that. So, as I continue to do this, I'll find better solutions. And, I took the advice of several people who commented on, I started packing carnivore breakfasts and carnivore lunches with me when I was going on the road. So that helped. And then I knew places where I could go get like a hamburger and take the bun away, or get a steak, or at least get some kind of chicken. So that was a learning experience, but it did pay it off. Let's talk about the doctors. I'd stated earlier, the doctors were really good. So I did this, and I would recommend that you do this, is that you go to the doctor and periodically have your blood checked. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it doesn't matter what diet you're on. I think you should have that done on every diet. So I did go to the doctor a lot. Not a lot, I should say. I have my regular appointments at the VA. My blood was checked multiple times because I was curious about my A1C. I was curious about my blood pressure because there was times when, they were saying, your blood pressure is really high, you're really high. They were talking about putting me on medicine, the A1C, they're, oh, you're pre-diabetic. These go up a little bit more. We're going to treat you for diabetes. And it just happened, the carnivore diet, I lost all that weight and they were happy with the progress I was making. And so now my blood pressure is really, like I said, it's low. Well, I didn't say low, but, it's below 120 and, over 80. So it's better. My A1C is really low, so there's no more pre-diabetic. The doctor was well aware of what I was doing because, I want him to know that the diet I was doing and know that, so he could, explain to me the risk and what he was concerned. And so he knew what blood test to take to check and make sure I was doing okay. So overall, this year has been quite the experience. I still have weight goals I want to meet, and I'm going to do that. I still have goals from when I first started that I want to do, and most of you know that goal is that, to feel, when I go to the beach, to not feel self-conscious and feel like I'm being stared at if I take off my shirt. I'm looking at doing the Camino de Santiago, which is walking 500 miles across Spain. So I'm really hoping to lose, 10 or 15 more pounds before I do that. And because on that walk, I'm hoping to lose weight while I'm doing that walk. So that would be great. And then, just the overall awareness, I want to get my waist smaller, so I can get in, pants that I used to be able to wear, when I was younger, obviously. But so overall, I would say do the carnivore diet. I think you'll like it, especially if you're a person who likes to eat meat like I do. And, it's been an overall good experience for me. I can't say that there was anything really negative that I wasn't expecting to happen. And if you fall off the wagon or you get back on and start riding again, just keep going, just keep pushing yourself to do it. And I want to take this time now to thank all of you who followed me for the year and, supported me with your positive comments and then sending ideas and, on how you do carnivore and how you prepare your food, because it did help. I took a lot of those ideas, I took a lot of those comments, and I incorporated them into my daily life with carnivore. So I want to thank you all for that. I appreciate your support, and know that I'm here to support you as well if you do the carnivore diet. And, I just look forward to keep going and, keep experiencing weight loss and see how this plays out. So I will continue to do the videos, probably just weekly though. I mean, at this point there's, I'm not doing anything that isn't going to change day to day like the first 90 days. So I will do the videos. I will keep posting so you can keep following. And again, please send your comments if you have questions, and just let me know how you're doing and, what worked for you and what hasn't worked for you, because with that information, we can share it in posts and other people who watch, maybe those will help them out because they didn't ask the question or were afraid to. But anyway, again, thank you for your support and thank you for following me for this year. And, I look forward to hearing from all of you. And, I still consider us one big carnivore family, and we'll keep working to do what we got to do. All right. Thank you very much. And you have a great day. All right. We'll talk to you later. All right. Bye.